All right, here we be. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you as we have week 2 of training camp now underway. As the first day in pads went off without a hitch. We had one injured player leave due to the added contact today. No update on Ty Johnson's status just yet, but he took a shot from Terrell Bernard, who came flying through out on the edge and just dropped him on his keister.
Yeah, wait,
and he got shaken up.
Hold on now. Let me just, be the football player that I am. It was not. He slipped just before the hit came.
Right. So his upper body and head was left exposed.
It was nice. It was a nice hit, no question, but it was exaggerated. So come on.
All right. Well, either way, he left the field, did not return. So we'll probably get an update on Ty Johnson's status probably tomorrow or maybe the next time Coach McDermott talks. Coach McDermott did speak before practice today and confirmed James Cook back at practice after an excused absence on Sunday. And then we got an injury update from some non-participants. Chase Claypool, who many of us saw pull up lame in practice on Sunday, has a toe injury, not considered serious. He's listed as day-to-day. Then we had Mike Edwards, the most severe of the injuries. He suffered a hamstring injury late in practice yesterday. It happened right in front of me. They're doing one-on-one drills, pass coverage, receivers versus DBs, and he turned and he flipped his hips and turned to run with the receiver, and that hamstring just went on him, and he knew it immediately. So he is listed as week to week. He is going to miss some time here. That's unfortunate because he missed almost the balance of spring practices with a shoulder injury. So he does have a history of getting nicked up. That's unfortunate. But what it does do is kind of open the door for second-round pick Cole Bishop. So he's getting a ton more reps now, as is DeMar Hamlin, among others. So knowing he's definitely not coming back to practice this week, perhaps even next week, there's a good chance that he's on track to miss the first preseason game.
I feel bad for Mike Edwards. You do that, and they keep, it keeps rolling. Nothing. They don't wait on anybody at training camp, and you feel like you're gone for 10 years. It's like doing a prison sentence, standing there watching these guys practice because you feel like you're just losing all kinds of time
and ground on any competition you might be a part of.
You feel like, and also this, you get no coaching either. I mean, that's the thing. You're standing around, all these guys are getting coached, they're getting better, they're doing all this stuff, and you literally are standing there as a bystander. And there is nothing worse as a ball player.
Yeah. In case you didn't know, there are 2 Mike Edwards on this football team. The other one plays offensive line. He is an undrafted rookie, and unfortunately, he too is injured. He is in the concussion protocol. And some might say, well, how is he in the concussion protocol? They didn't even put pads on yet. It can happen. I mean, on any given play, crazy stuff can happen. My heart jumped into my throat today when there was a bad snap, and for a half a second, Josh decided to try to go pick it up. A.J. Epinesa pulled himself up just in the nick of time because he almost rolled up on Josh's leg, which would have been an ankle injury at the least. Anything can happen on any innocuous play in a football practice, pads or not.
Yeah, it's bad. It can happen. We saw a couple of scuffles today as well, which were, I guess in today's NFL, they're fights.
That wasn't a fight. It was a shoving match.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a
couple of shoving matches.
Yeah, a couple of guys got up, and there was a bunch of guys that jumped in on it. And then the one in the secondary with, it was Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins threw the ball at Kyer Elam.
Right, and
after he made the catch.
And they mixed it up just for a second, and that didn't do anything either. I was brought back memories. I was telling you, it's so much better. The league is so much better in so many ways these days. Mm-hmm. That's better because when back in the day, training camp fights were exactly what they sound like. They were death matches, and unless you had big dudes to pull them apart, it was going to be ugly, and it was frightening. So this is better. The guys break it up. It's no big deal. Let's go back and they start playing football again, and that's the way it should be. It doesn't mean they care less. It doesn't mean they're not as tough. It doesn't mean they're, whatever. What it does mean is, they're more disciplined and they got more respect for each other. They're a higher level right now, I really believe that.
I do think, just through observation here over the last 5 practices, that Mac Hollins does have an edge when he steps on the field, because he's this very, alternate thinker, smile on his face guy off the field that everybody loves. He gets on the field, he turns into somebody different. He gets a little ornery. I know you heard him chirping at one of the other players the other day that was, they were going through like a thud kind of situation, and he kind of came across, the defender comes across the middle of the field, I would have laid you out on that play, and he vehemently disagreed. And then today, he catches a ball over Kyer Elam, which was good coverage. It was a good effort play.
Good play on both sides.
And then he turned around and threw the ball at Kyer, then they got nose to nose.
Kyer gave him a little something after the play was made, probably said something, and Hollins tossed the ball at him, and away they went. It's not a big deal, but, it's part of first day of pads. Here we go, And you're right. Mac Hollins is one of those guys, and I've said every team needs him. You need a guy that doesn't mind getting in a scuffle.
Yeah.
And if he wants to be in it. And guys know he's ready for it. So it gives your team a little bit of an attitude, and every team needs guys like that. And Mac Hollins, unusual that it would be a wide receiver, but all the better.
With the first day in pads being today, there was naturally a whole lot of run plays. So a lot of run periods, and I would say on the whole, my opinion that the Bills are a good run team has not wavered in the least based on what we witnessed today. There were some good holes being opened up both inside and on the edges for the running backs. And this was without Ty Johnson, your number 2. Everybody rotated up. Ray Davis came in after James Cook, and Frank Gore Jr. came in after that. And it didn't seem to impact the effectiveness of the run game very much. So I leave practice today encouraged that the run game is every bit as formidable as we saw it in the second half of last season.
I would agree with that. In fact, I think there was a couple of plays in there that were like wow, startling. They were they were really well executed up front. Didn't matter which running back was there, but it was they really effective. I'm still hanging in there with this. This offense is going to be fine right out of the gate this year. I think they're going to find, and I think they've already displayed in training camp at different times, that they can beat you a lot of different ways. They've got guys in every facet of the offense and in every type of offense you can think of to be really successful. So you're going to have to really juggle a lot of things as a defense to keep this team in front of you.
Yeah, and you can, when the players are in pads, you can get a better read on their skill sets, particularly in one-on-one drills. And we saw Curtis Samuel catch Jamarcus Ingram flat-footed on a one-on-one route, and he got behind him for a touchdown, make a nice leaping grab for the score. I watched some O-line, D-line one-on-one, Steve, and probably the best rep was rookie versus rookie Javon Solomon against Tylen Grable, where Solomon tried an outside rip move and was stonewalled there, and so he just pulled that, he's coming around the right side, pulled that left arm out and just hit Tylen Grable right in the solar plexus with a one-arm stab move and literally knocked him on his keister and got to the quarterback. So we'll hear a little bit more about Javon Solomon later in the show when we talk to Greg Rousseau in hour number 2. We're going to ask him about some of his fellow defensive linemen in addition to what's going on with him. I will say the offensive linemen won a good number of the reps over there today, just going off of what I was seeing. A lot of stalemates for them, which is technically a win.
Right.
And then some clear wins as well. And then we saw Kyer Elam in a one-on-one. He has perfect technique, but he doesn't execute the last part of the technique. Cornerbacks coach Jamiel Adai pulls him aside and explains how you had him right where you wanted him on this play, and you didn't finish with the last part of that technique that we teach. And I'm not going to reveal all of that stuff, but the very next rep that Kyer got, he's going against Justin Shorter, and Shorter is taller than him by about 4 inches, and he outreaches Kyer for the ball, but Kyer does not, and his back is to the goal line. He does not let Shorter turn around. Instead, after Shorter pulls the ball in, he goes and grabs the ball and spins away from Shorter and rips it out of his hands for an interception as Shorter's feet are coming to the ground. It was a good redemption play, if you will, for Kyer Elam.
Yeah, that has been Kyer's in the limited number of games we've seen him play. That has been his calling card.
That's a good calling card to have.
Yeah, he's got you like putting your hand on your forehead, going, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" And then the next thing you know, you're high-fiving everybody that's sitting around you because he just picked it off or did something like that. So yeah, it's Kyer Elam is. I think that this secondary is going to surprise some people early in this season. I think their athleticism really jumps out.
Yeah, and the rotation continues back there between those top three, Benford, Douglas, and Elam. And we're seeing all three of those rotate through with the first unit. And I think it's a competition that's going to probably go pretty deep into the preseason.
I think it's real.
I mean, barring somebody falling off terribly.
Yeah, and I think and we won't know until we see it on the field because they're going to tell us who's starting or who's not. We may get glimpses of it. But even if you get into the preseason games, Brownie and like Kyer and Benford are out there, and it's like, okay, there's your guys. And, well, the next game it's going to be Rasul Douglas and Benford or Rasul and Elam.
Right.
They're just going to keep rotating those guys around, and we won't know until opening day.
I think the more important thing is developing the depth behind them, where you have people like Jamarcus Ingram and Kyron Brown, but then you also have some rookies, like Kenny I. Lovely and Takori Couch.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are a little deeper on the depth chart. They have no NFL experience. They're going to have to school them up really fast because I think ultimately you're keeping 5 corners. And so at least 5, maybe 6, because you've got, I know you have Cam. He's kind of a wild card safety corner nickel hybrid. But counting Taryn and then those top 3, that's 4 right there. You got to have 1 more, I would think.
I think at least.
Maybe 2.
At least.
Maybe you count Cam as your backup nickel, so you don't need one there, so you keep an outside guy instead.
Unless you have, like for instance, if something happens and something happens to Taryn is the problem, because then you got to have a backup nickel. You can't have just 2 backup outside corners. But if their answer to that is moving, like Kyer comes down into the slot now, and then you put Rasul and Benford on the outside, and that's how you're going to do it. If not, you got to have somebody, and that you're starting to get 6 corners on your squad. Everybody plays 3, so you got to have a backup. Theoretically, you need a backup for all 3 of those, but that doesn't mean that that's who's going to go in next. They may put an outside corner in and keep one of the outside guys and move them inside. Don't know if that's it or not, but that's a possibility, which gives them the ability not to keep 6. If they got a guy that can play safety and corner instead of corner and nickel, that can change their roster makeup. It's a numbers game, no question, but it's also their ability to envision the bad things that can happen and what happens if this guy goes down.
Yeah.
And then there's no way they're going to go into a game and not have a plan they feel good about behind that guy.
I think it's Cam Lewis right now. I
Right.
don't see that changing. So now it becomes
It's been that in the
of
past.
the other guys on the roster, who's the one guy that takes the depth for quote unquote 4th outside corner spot.
Yeah, here's the thing though, it might be Cam
Dane
Lewis.
It's been Dane Jackson for years.
It may be Cam Lewis, but Cam Lewis will get you out of a game. I don't know that you want to go in and have him. Now, the reason I like Cam Lewis in there is because he holds up in the run game to me. I don't know that he's the coverage guy that Taryn is. So when you get into a game plan and they know that Cam Lewis is going to be that guy, they may have a game plan that they're going to take advantage of that matchup they like against Cam Lewis. So you may want a different guy in there if you're going to start a game. But to finish a game, it has been Cam Lewis, right? I mean, he's been the guy that goes in there.
The nickel, yeah.
The nickel. So that's what I mean about Taryn. If something happens to Taryn, now Taryn's had an incredible run here of 100% health.
There's very little time.
Right. So we'll see about that, how that works, if that would change their philosophy. But like I said, that's what we're finding out as we watch these practices.
Because you have the draft choice, Daquan Hardy, and then you have Kyron Brownie, was here last year on the practice squad, to Corey Couch, who's been playing a lot of nickel, rookie, and Kenny I. Lovely, who's been playing outside with mainly the third unit. So, I mean, that's the pool from which you're drawing at the corner position. So, be very interesting to see how that all shakes out through the course of the preseason. We heard last week on how Matt Milano's workload would be managed through camp. We witnessed that today. First day in pads, Matt Milano gets a veteran rest day, as does Von Miller. And in addition to that, who was the third guy? It was, hold on, I got it right here. Let me back it up. It was, who was the other?
The offensive lineman, right?
No, he was out injured.
Okay.
Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson was the third veteran rest day player for practice today, which gave us a good look at the other nickel corner options that got rolled through there. I mean, beyond that, nothing else really grabbed me with practice today.
The offense looked good. I mean, as they continue to look good. I thought that there was a little bit of difference today when the pads came on. I think the wide receivers took a half step back because the DBs felt like they could be that much more aggressive.
Yeah,
and I thought
not
it
as many
showed.
connections.
I thought it showed. I thought that showed a little bit. That doesn't mean that the receivers aren't going to bounce back, but I thought the DBs, you could feel they were more confident coming out, being able to play more physically in pads.
Yeah.